New information about the shooting that happened here on campus. And could Norman be impacted by severe weather? The OU Nightly weather team has the coverage. Plus, hear how some educators facing the teacher shortage in Oklahoma. This is OU Nightly. Hello, thanks for joining us for OU Nightly. I'm Jessie Klinger.
And I'm Kolby Terrell. Today we bring you new information about the shooting that occurred on campus.
OU Nightly Sydney Wallace is live on the South Oval with the very latest details. Sydney.
The Oklahoma Medical Examiner's Office has released the official name of the man who was shot here at Lindsay and Elm just 10 days ago. 36-year-old Shed Ewins was shot and killed after an altercation with an unnamed man who was claiming self-defense. Police say no arrests have been made, but there is an ongoing investigation to determine the true cause of the confrontation. Statements from Ewins' loved ones say he was a family man, a loving husband, and father of 5, and they do not think he deserved this harsh fate. Now, the ongoing investigation, once it's wrapped up, they will be sent to the district attorney's office to determine if more charges or any charges will need to be filed. Reporting live, Sydney Wallace, OU Nightly.
Thanks, Sydney. Another night, another fight against the proposed turnpike that would cut through Norman. Hundreds gathered last night at the Norman Central Library to search for answers about the Turnpike Authority's decision that could claim their homes and businesses as eminent domain. OU Nightly's Avery Goreman was at that meeting, and she joins us live now with the story. Avery.
Around 200 people gathered here and had some tough questions for the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. But even after the meeting, citizens still felt like their questions were not answered. To know how the proposed turnpike would affect them, and OTA deployed a team to address these concerns. Many citizens felt as if they didn't get a direct answer for their questions.
I don't feel as though they're easing anybody's pain, and I feel like most people leave feeling like they didn't get their questions answered.
Deputy Director Joey Kelly says that the point of this meeting was to establish contact with citizens.
We're extremely early in this process. The point of tonight is that we're able to get information, contact information, so it allows us to know where they live, know what an address is, and associate the best way to communicate.
Many citizens want answers about how the turnpike will affect the watershed and wildlife in the area, as well as the displacement of homes that this will create.
One lady I just talked to bought her property in December and built a home. Then in January or February, they come out and say, OTA's known about this for a long time.
OTA understands the concerns, but says that the turnpike is needed in order to keep the citizens of Oklahoma safe and to cut down travel time.
We're here to listen to the people that have concerns. I've talked to a lot of them individually. As the state and as government, we're asking them to make a sacrifice for a project, for the greater good of Oklahoma.
OTA explains that they're only a few months into a 15-year-long plan. They say we can have more information on the project in about 6 to 8 months. Reporting live, Avery Goreman, OU Nightly.
Thank you, Avery. Now in Ukraine, in the besieged city of Mariupol, Ukrainian army officials are pleading for help to evacuate civilians and wounded soldiers from the region.
According to our information, they are keeping 120,000 people in besieged Mariupol. Crimes that are happening there are far more scary and in larger scale than in Bordianka.
In the meantime, the Russian army is increasing shelling and attacks in the Donbas region in an attempt to split Ukraine into two. But 2 senior U.S. officials say Russia has few territorial gains, and the U.S. and NATO weigh providing more military aid to Ukraine. The United States is working on another $800 million weapons package, and the Biden administration also unveiled a new round of sanctions against Russia Wednesday, targeting a bank, cryptocurrency, and 40 people tied to an oligarch. Finally, the State Department is restricting the visas of 635 Russians involved in suppressing dissent.
Russian forces left equipment, clothes, and fortifications from shelling near Kyiv. Romelo Woodfork has that story and the rest of today's headlines from around the world.
Thanks, Kolby. An abandoned Russian camp near Kyiv further highlights the horror of the Ukraine and Russian war. The camp was used to launch missiles and rockets that destroyed Ukrainian homes and lives. Multiple camps were located about 4 kilometers in the forest near Kyiv. Russian troops left behind clothes, equipment, fortifications, and terror for nearby neighborhoods. Back in the States, a former Ohio doctor acquitted for the death of his patients.
We, the jury in this case, being duly impaneled and sworn, find the defendant not guilty as to count 1 of the indictment for murder and not guilty to any lesser offense.
William Husel shared an emotional embrace with his attorney as the judge read his verdict. He faced 14 counts of murder. Prosecutors argued that he gave excessive amounts of fentanyl to his patients that led or sped up their deaths from 2015 to 2018. The jury deliberated for nearly a week, facing impasses along the way. Husel's license is currently suspended, but he says he hopes to practice medicine again. Some U.S. lawmakers fear a potential surge of immigrants as the CDC revokes Title 42, a Trump-era pandemic restriction that allowed for the swift deportation of hundreds of thousands of immigrants. It also allowed Border Patrol officials to turn people away due to the pandemic. The rule is set to be lifted in May. Some Democrats worried that it is not enough time to put a new plan in place. Homeland Security says they are planning for a potential increase at the border. The Great Resignation continues. In the past 12 months, a record number of Americans have quit their jobs due to poor working conditions, uninspiring jobs, and bad bosses. Kolby and Jessie, back to you.
Thanks, Romelo. Now, Kolby, it's been extremely windy here today in Norman, and on top of all of that, the state may be in for some more severe weather.
Now, we may not be getting any here in Norman, but Colin Mertz is here to tell us more. Colin, what should Oklahomans be ready for?
Well, if you're in the eastern part of the state, you're going to want to keep your eyes peeled later tonight as we see some severe weather. Right now, looking at the satellite for the majority of Oklahoma, we're starting to see that cloud cover that dominated the area move out, and that's where in this area especially we're going to see stuff start to pop up, and really that's what we're going to look for. We don't have any watches and warnings out now, but we expect this to change as this moves along. So later we're going to talk about the storms developing, the potential hazards, and maybe a return to spring temperatures. Kolby, Jessie, back to y'all.
Thanks, Colin. Now, there is a teacher shortage across the nation, but especially in Oklahoma.
But is the pandemic to blame? Find out coming up.
Plus, see how one student-funded organization is struggling to make ends meet among rising gas prices when OU Nightly returns.
Oklahoma educators are struggling across the state as a recent study finds the ratio of students to teachers is 374 to 1. OU Nightly's Libbey Dean talked to some educators to hear how they're feeling about the teacher shortage.
We're getting almost to a decade of having a chronic, ongoing teacher shortage.
Educators are feeling the effects of this shortage across the nation, especially here in Oklahoma. OU grads who are now leading classrooms say reasons for the teacher shortage are complex and predate the pandemic.
Well, obviously, the number one reason is financial. They just don't pay Oklahoma teachers enough money.
There are passionate people who want to do the job, and there is no passion where there is no pay.
Oklahoma Education Association President Catherine Bishop would add another major factor is the lack of respect for educators.
Our students are not going in to become an educator because mainly of respect.
I feel like teachers are very underappreciated, especially in Oklahoma.
Whether it's salary or respect, Oklahoma has to make some big changes in order to draw in more teachers to the state.
We need to stop demeaning and demoralizing our profession, the profession that is educating our future. We need to be cheering them on and lifting them up.
Libbey also got the chance to talk to some education graduates here at OU, many of whom plan to leave the state to teach. Those students say the state needs to make some major changes before they consider teaching in Oklahoma.
Now, with the recent spike in gas prices, the OU fishing team's reliance on gasoline for travel and boats is hurting their ability to finance events. OU Nightly's David Asche tells us more about what the team is doing to compete.
I'm here at a local pond outside of Griffin Park where the OU fishing team comes to practice. Now, I talked to some members of the team about what they were doing in order to be able to still afford to be able to compete.
For the members of the Oklahoma fishing team, the rising cost of gas is troublesome. Aside from traveling to competitions across the South, keeping their boats full is costing more than planned.
We have spent roughly $2,000 just on gas. That is not including somewhere to stay, the tournament fee entries and tackle, wear and tear. anything like that. We spent almost $2,000 on gas just this semester.
According to member Zach Knight, it is better to fill up at local gas stations instead of filling up at lakeside pumps.
It's a lot easier and a lot cheaper to fill up at a gas station when I'm filling up my truck. The lake is a lot more expensive and they have a lot higher gas prices there.
The OU Student Government Association, which gives money to clubs on campus, says COVID-19 is to blame for the lack of funds.
The past 2 years, a lot of groups haven't been able to do a lot of the things that they have historically in the past.
Currently recognized as just a club, the team is looking to hook a deal with the university in order to alleviate costs.
Most other Division I fishing schools, fishing teams have full funding from their university. They provide boats, gas, full scholarships, the whole 9 yards, and that's something we hope we can get from the university.
For now, the fishing team is looking to minimize costs and continue competing in hopes of winning a national championship. Reporting live, David Asche, OU Nightly.
Thanks, David. One OU student was able to learn a skill with his free time during the 2020 shutdown.
Find out how his art turned into a profit after the break.
Plus, with that possibility of severe weather, Colin is here to give us the impacts.
That's right. We're going to look at it later to see what possibilities we have. More on that coming up. Good afternoon, Oklahoma. Hope you're having a fantastic day. If you're in the eastern part of the state, going to have maybe an active evening. This is the Storm Prediction Center's convective outlook for today. And this yellow area here showing the slight risk that we have in the state. Looking at what that might bring for the eastern part of the state, we see a couple different threats. We see a very low tornado risk. Low doesn't mean no, but it is a low tornado risk. Really, mostly we're going to be paying attention to the wind and hail. As we look at the radar currently, this moves into Thursday. We kind of see a bit of the storms pop up as they move through, so we're going to keep our eye on those. And then we're actually looking at even more possibility for storms Thursday into Friday. So if we look here, Thursday we see some stuff pop up in the northern part of the state and then again in the southwest part of the state as we move into the next day. But looking at the next few days, in the big picture, we see that low pressure right here, and that's just going to push through and bring with it up some of that warm, moist air, which will provide the possibility for storms on those days. And then as we move into Friday, we see that cold front move through and again gin up that possibility. But looking at the next few days, this is tomorrow's outlook. And so this is what we're going to see, the possibility of a threat. Mostly we're concerned about this. This is a typical spring in the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles. We're going to keep our eyes on that, but that is another risk, again, that we're going to have to look at. Wouldn't be surprised to see some storms pop up, Amarillo, Guymon, and that typical panhandle area. But looking at what we have currently outside, it's 92, pretty warm, significantly warmer than what we normally have this time of year, and those temperatures pretty consistent across the state. We can actually see the cool off from the cloud cover that's moving out of the state. Those winds bringing up moist air off the Gulfs, keeping us very humid and very mid to high dew points, especially for this time of year. But looking at lows tonight around the 60s into the 50s, and then highs tomorrow going to be slightly cooler, but still pretty warm. But over the next few days, we got cooling off just a bit, slightly, and then Friday we're going to keep it warm and sunny. But of course, we have those possibilities Saturday and Sunday. Jessie, back to you.
Thanks, Colin. Now, one student at the University of Oklahoma found a way to take the extended time at home during quarantine to turn it into a profitable business. Landon Roskey's a senior, creates handmade art pieces out of resin. His company, Landon Roskey Designs, features running clocks, turntables, wall art, and even custom orders for his customers. Now, amid the troubles of the pandemic, Landon hopes his art will be a source of positivity for all who use it.
I'll do like custom orders sometimes, and so somebody will order a piece from me. And just seeing their face just like light up whenever I hand them their piece, that really just makes it all worth it.
After college, he plans on continuing to pursue his craft for anyone looking for a nice addition to their home.
But now we're going to hand it over to Brooklyn Sweet for sports.
Brooklyn, I hear you have some breaking news for us.
Yeah, guys, we have an update on the Dwayne Haskins story and why one OU athlete is taking a leave. Don't go away. Sports is next. Welcome back to OU Nightly. I'm Brooklyn Sweet, and we start off sports with breaking news. We have new information regarding the death of Steelers quarterback Dwayne Haskins. Kolby Haskins, his wife, reported that her husband was walking to get gas the morning he was killed by a dump truck on a Florida interstate. After he didn't call her back saying he had returned to his car, Kolby Haskins called 911. The final crash report states Haskins was crossing I-595 when he was struck by the truck. If you're wondering why you haven't seen junior utility Mackenzie Donahue on the diamond recently, head coach Patty Gasso explains her leave of absence.
Right now, all I can say is Lou's taking care of Lou and what's best for Lou. And that's about it. It's kind of more of a personal, just leave it at that. So Lou is doing what's best for Lou right now.
Without Donahue, tonight, #1 Oklahoma softball makes the short trip to Denton to take on North Texas. The Sooners lead the all-time series over the Mean Green 31-1. OU is looking for revenge after their first loss to Texas on Sunday. Bats will start swinging at Lovelace Stadium at 6:30 tonight. Football time is back in Oklahoma for one day only. The spring game is this weekend, and new head coach Brent Venables is hoping fans pack the Palace to show their Sooner pride.
Passion comes from love. And so if you love the Sooners, man, be passionate about it. And you can't love and hate it, right? You love it. And you got to love all of it. You can't hate it and boo it, right? And you love it, you're passionate about it, and that's just what you have.
The Crimson and Cream Showdown kicks off at 3 p.m. this Saturday. Last night, OU baseball came back from a 3-run deficit to beat Wichita State 9-5. The Sooners scored 7 runs in the 6th inning with 4 hits, 4 walks, and 5 stolen bases. Diego Munez drove in 3 runs, and Tanner Treadaway went 2-4 with an RBI and a scored run. The Sooners head to Lawrence, Kansas for a 3-game series against the Jayhawks this weekend. Ja Morant finds himself as the play of the week with this stellar play. Morant goes behind the back and between the legs to lose the defender and hits the triple. Kolby and Jessie, I wish I had baller moves like Morant, but for now, passing it back to you.
Yeah, Brooklyn, now while that is a cool move, I think I'd rather have seen a dunk.
Speaking of dunks, when it comes to Oreos, are you team twist or team dunk?
Well, I'm team dunk, but if you're team twist, stay tuned to find out how to have the perfect Oreo split.
I'm Snow Forth at the OU Nightly Update Desk. The Oklahoma Senate approved a bill requiring insurance coverage for diagnostic mammograms today. Currently, not all insurance companies cover the exam. Authors of the bill say it will help save lives because women will be able to afford getting these mammograms, potentially detecting early stages of cancer. Kolby, Jessie, back to you.
Thanks, Snow. Now, Kolby, I wasn't a big fan of science in high school, but this new research study is starting to change my mind.
It's called Oreoology, and it's all about the science behind splitting your Oreos.
MIT researchers shared their efforts to perfectly twist the cookie so the icing is evenly distributed to each side.
But even if you perfectly split them, they say the icing almost always ends up on one side.
So maybe Oreo fans are better off dunking than twisting. So, Kolby, it seems like you're going to have to join my team.
I can't. It's not in my blood. I won't ever. I will never dunk an Oreo. I won't do it.
Never?
No. Not even. There's nothing that could make me dunk an Oreo, Jessie. But genuinely nothing. But today's heat does have me in the mood for a glass of milk and cookies. And if you're ready for a cool down, Colin may have your relief. Colin.
That's right. Well, we have had warmer temperatures recently, and we're expecting a bit of a cool down. Now, just to recap, we are still looking at the severe weather outlook for tonight. So if you're in this area, keep your eye out for storms as they develop. They're going to be possibility of up to golf ball size hail, so we're going to keep our eye on that. But looking at the rest of the week, we're going to keep our eyes on the storm Saturday, and then as we go into later, we're going to see a nice cool down to more spring-like temperatures.
Thanks, Colin, and thank you for watching OU Nightly.
Tune in every weekday at 4:30 and make sure to come back next week for our last Wednesday show.
Have a good night.